Hey, yeah, it's James. Today I'm going to be sharing about how to hear God's voice. So I've been hearing God's voice about 5-6 years, and it's completely changed my life. Changed my relationship with God, changed how I pray, changed how I read the Bible, changed how I worship. It's just come into every area of life, even when I'm walking around and I'm just kind of having that kind of two-way conversation, which I didn't know was possible before God started speaking to me. No one ever told me about it, but it's the coolest thing ever. And hearing your Father in heaven tell you He loves you, yeah, it's great. So here's a few tips on how to start or grow in hearing God's voice. Number 1. Know the word. So important. When you're growing in hearing God's voice, you're going to grow in discernment so much. Probably quite quickly at the start. And you'll grow in weighing stuff up against scripture. Obviously, therefore, you need to know scripture. So super important to know God's heart, God's nature, God's character, God's will. It's seen the whole way through scripture. So just start somewhere. Read a little bit every day, no stress. And if you're not doing that, start with a few times a week, but just get going. Super important. Number 2, just keep practicing. Just keep practicing. Don't worry if you get it wrong. Just keep practicing. Simple tip. Just keep practicing. Number 3 is write it down. So if you struggle concentrating like I do, then writing it down and doing something physical helps you get distracted less of the time. So I learned that in school when I had extra time in exams and stuff. Just normal notepad, and I also date it, and then I know when God said, what God said, which is fun. Number 4 is be still. Still your heart and your mind. God often isn't silent, He's still. And we're rushing around being busy and being distracted. God isn't going to shout, I think is really important. A lesson that I've learned is God doesn't shout, He whispers. And He draws you in, and you have to keep coming closer and closer, because it's about intimacy. And the more mature you get spiritually, and the more you grow in relationship with God, the closer you'll become. Because he won't let you stay far away, because He wants you drawn in. And so stilling your heart is more about kind of stopping all the other influences and all the other voices. And if you've got 5 minutes spare or something, rather than doing a task you had to do, or getting on your phone, playing a game, checking social media, replying to an email or a message, just spend 5 minutes being with God, being still before Him and listening. And number 5 is start now. Start now, start sooner rather than later, practice more rather than less. Yeah, just make some space, make some time for it, pop some worship music on in the background and just practice, basically. So let me know how that's gone for you, if you've put this into practice and had a go. If it's been your first time and you've heard God, please let me know. That'd be super cool to hear about that. I will see you next week.